start off today's show, I'm joined by Angenette Levy, who is out of Moscow, Idaho right now to bring us the very latest in the updates of the tragedy of the 4 murdered University of Idaho students. Angenette, good to see you. We know the culprit has not been identified. No arrests have been made. The murder weapon hasn't been found. What are you learning out there right now?
Well, Jesse, it's 9 a.m. here. Good morning to you from Moscow, Idaho. Right now, we are at the home on King Road because Moscow Police Chief James Fry and members of his command staff are expected to come here back to this active crime scene. You still see that there's the yellow crime scene tape there. There's a private security firm securing this home to make sure that nobody goes in here or crosses over that crime scene tape. The chief says they want to retrieve personal belongings that belong to these victims, Kaylee Gonzalez, Maddie Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, and return some of those belongings to the family members. So listen to what Chief Fry said yesterday about why they wanted to do this.
Me and my command team and other individuals will be going in to box up personal belongings of the people that live there. And we're going to be getting those items back to the families. It's time for us to get those things back that really mean something to those families and hopefully to help with some of their healing.
And Jesse, we haven't seen Chief Fry or members of his command staff here just yet, but it does kind of raise some questions about how they will be doing this. Obviously, this is an active crime scene. We know that they processed this scene. There were members of the Idaho State Crime Lab here collecting evidence. So you would have to imagine possibly that they've collected what they feel they need and that they can go back in there maybe without damaging anything or disturbing anything. But that process is expected to take much of today when it begins and possibly into Thursday. Obviously, it's still just about 9 a.m. here in Idaho, so we don't know what time that process is going to begin, but it should begin soon. You know, we were out and about yesterday too, Jesse, talking to students, and you know, the campus, it's not full. It's not bustling like it usually would be. Some of the students told us that a lot of the students, maybe half, have opted to stay home and do classes virtually. We even met up with some people yesterday who were in their fraternity house, the Sigma Chi house. It's not far from here, who were on classes virtually rather than venturing out and going to class on campus.
Speaking of the Sigma Chi fraternity house, if you can give us a glimpse, how far away is it from the crime scene? Because it's interesting, right? That house is where 2 of the victims were right before they came home. Just give us an idea. How far away is it from there?
Well, so Jesse, here's the house on King Road, right? And Christian, I don't know if we can swing around. I'll swing around for you. The Sigma Chi house is basically, if I turn over this way, there's a set of stairs right here. And you walk down these stairs, and you probably can't see it from here, but the Sigma Chi house is just beyond, over to my left. So it's a pretty big house, but it's over that way. So it's a very short walk, probably maybe a block, maybe not even that. But the interesting thing about that is that police said earlier this week that Xana and Ethan was a member there. We spoke with the president of the fraternity just briefly yesterday outside the door. You know, he said Ethan was a member, Xana was a friend, you know, to theirs. They knew Xana, and we know they had been there around 9 o'clock, but police had said earlier this week they were still trying to piece together Xana and Ethan's movements that night. What happened with them between 9 p.m. and 1:45 a.m. when they returned to the home here on King Road and then were murdered, obviously sometime after that. So I think that the police are still kind of gathering information about that. Were they at that home for just a short time? Were they there the whole evening? Nobody seems to know at this point.
It's just a lack of information, and focusing on that, the Gonzalez family, particularly Stephen Gonzalez, the father of Kaylee, has expressed his frustration with the police department. I've seen reports. We know that they hired a private investigator, but now there's reports that they plan to hire a lawyer. Can you speak about what they're planning to do here and how this might actually get more information about what's happening with this investigation?
Well, Steve Gonzalez, I spoke with him just briefly by phone on Monday, and he had mentioned that to me as well, discussing about, and he had said that on some other interviews. I'm going to move here so I don't get hit by this car. But so he had said that they were going to hire this private investigator. They want answers, and they're wondering if somebody else can determine what happened to their loved ones. These people, their lives were shattered. I mean, within a moment, that Sunday morning, that Sunday, November 13th, they get this phone call that their children have been murdered in the most horrific way. And they're frustrated, they're angry, they're going through all of these emotions, and they want answers yesterday. They don't want to wait for an investigation. But these investigations can sometimes take a lot of time with all of the evidence that's collected and trying to piece things together through interviews and things like that. So he's very frustrated, and he mentioned that to me, maybe possibly hiring a lawyer as well. We've been trying to get back in touch with him. That's been difficult, but I think that they are just incredibly frustrated. They feel like they're not getting a lot of information from police. Which is sadly, that's common. They wanted to protect the investigation, and they put that out the other day that they don't want to put information out that could compromise the investigation and a possible future prosecution. So I think we can all, as parents, I'm a mom. If this happened to me, I don't know, I would be beside myself. I don't know what I would do. But I think they want answers. They're grieving. They're angry. They're going through all of these emotions. So I think that my feeling on that is that they're looking to get answers any way they can.
Have you also heard anything about the two surviving roommates, right? So we know that the way that house is structured, there are 3 tiers. The victims were found on the 2nd and 3rd floors, but there were 2 roommates on the ground floor who were apparently sleeping when all of this occurred. Have they spoken out at all about what has happened?
They spoke through statements. They haven't spoken on television that we've seen, but they had some statements that were read at a memorial service last Friday talking about how, these were their friends. There are photos of them on social media together. And, they were saying that, they would want that Kaylee and Maddie would want them to kind of live their lives and be happy and things like that. So we know that they got home, from what the police have said, around 1 a.m. that morning, and then found the victims, or at least one of the victims, later that morning when that 911 call was placed from one of their phones by somebody else. So it sounds like, we haven't heard that 911 call either. That's something else that's been kept under wraps, is the 911 call and who said what on that call and who spoke to the operators or the call takers. So those are things we still don't know. These are answers we just don't have at this point.
And Angenette, we got to keep you safe. You're in the middle of oncoming traffic as this goes on.
Right.
I do want to ask you real quickly, and we'll probably have an opportunity to talk about this later today, and I'll mention why in a moment, because we do have something special planned for our viewers. But the idea of the stalker claim, that Kaylee had a stalker, this is something that came out rather early, and it seems recently. Has it been debunked or explained by law enforcement about this stalker claim?
I don't know if it's been debunked per se, but they say they've been still checking into that, and they are still seeking information about that. If people have information about this potential claim or a claim by Kaylee that she may have had a stalker. Most recently, they said that they, police said they found these 2 guys who were out of business, who were near Kaylee, and one of them tried to follow her or something like that. So had followed her into the business and I guess tried to strike up a conversation. Police say they've talked to the guys on that surveillance video, and they believe they were just there to meet women and they were trying to pick up girls. So they don't believe they're involved at this point in the investigation. But I found it interesting last night, Jesse. I was looking through some of the old press releases, and some of them said that, it was in italics almost. Like, this person, we don't believe they're involved. We don't believe they're involved. But then in italics, it said, at this point in the investigation, we don't believe these people are involved. So it almost seems to me, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, yes, you've interviewed these people, you don't believe they're involved, but those things can change. How many times have we seen an investigation, somebody's interviewed and then later charged?
Right.
These things can happen. So I think that all, doors are open at this point. I don't know if you can really say somebody's totally excluded or they're totally not.